When God starts to reshape your life, it rarely feels like a gift. It feels like the ground is giving way. Things that used to comfort you stop working. The life you worked so hard to build suddenly feels empty. If you're in a season you can't quite explain, one that feels more like an ending than a beginning, keep listening. What you're going through has a name, a shape, and it shows up again and again in Scripture. We like to picture spiritual awakening as triumphant, sudden clarity, a wave of peace, instant transformation. Sometimes it does look like that. But for most of the people we read about in the Bible, awakening didn't arrive as an opening. It arrived as a breaking. Job lost nearly everything before he met God in a deeper way. Joseph was thrown into a pit before he was lifted to a palace. Elijah called fire down from the sky, then collapsed under a tree, wishing he were dead. Paul had to go blind before he could truly see. That's not a glitch in the process. That is the process. So let's walk through 7 stages Scripture lays out clearly, even if we rarely name them out loud. Stage 1 is disruption. It never starts gently. Something you depended on gets pulled away. A relationship, a plan, a certainty you'd held on to for years. And the hardest part is that the thing you lost often felt like it came from God in the first place. It's easy to assume you did something wrong, that this is punishment. But look at Job. It's God who first draws attention to him. God initiates the unraveling. The disruption isn't proof that God has left. It's proof that He won't let you settle for a smaller faith than the one He's building you toward. It feels like loss. It's actually the starting line. Stage 2 is silence. Prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling. The verses that used to move you now feel flat. Elijah lived this. The same man who stood on Mount Carmel and watched fire fall, who outlasted 450 prophets in one afternoon, later ran from a single angry queen and begged God to let him die. That's not weakness. That's a man who burned at full intensity and discovered the fire alone couldn't sustain him. The silence isn't rejection. It's God clearing out the noise that's been drowning out His voice. Stage 3 is the stripping. Things get taken that you never offered up. Titles, reputation, relationships, the image you'd carefully built for the world to see. Jeremiah watches a potter at work. The vessel gets marred, and instead of throwing the clay away, the potter reworks it into something new. "Can I not do with you as this potter does?" God asks. The stripping isn't destruction. It's a potter refusing to leave you in a shape too small for what he wants to pour into you. Losing an identity built on approval and performance isn't a punishment. It's a sign you're worth remaking. Stage 4 is the test. We assume God tests us to find out what's hidden inside us, but Deuteronomy 8 says otherwise. The wilderness years were meant to humble Israel and reveal what was already in their own hearts. The test isn't for God's benefit. It's for yours. Joseph didn't discover his purpose in comfort. He found it in a pit, then confirmed it in a prison cell. And Scripture is careful to say, the Lord was with Joseph in the prison, not just after the doors opened. Stage 5 is confrontation, not with your circumstances or the people who hurt you, but with yourself. Once everything external is gone, what's left is what you actually believe, not what you've always said. Jacob wrestled through the night on the bank of the Jabbok, and at dawn he was asked one question. "What is your name?" Jacob means deceiver. Speaking it meant owning it, dropping the mask he'd worn for decades. Only then was he renamed Israel. The confrontation isn't condemnation. It's God asking you to stop performing so He can introduce you to who you really are. Stage 6 is surrender, the hinge the whole process turns on. We think of surrender as defeat, a white flag. But in Scripture, it's the most courageous thing a person can do, releasing your grip on the outcome, not because you've stopped caring, but because you trust who's holding it. In Gethsemane, Jesus prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done." That wasn't resignation. That was the most trusting prayer ever spoken. And it's what made everything that followed possible. Stage 7 is emergence. You don't come out the same, and you're not meant to. Jacob left the riverbank with a limp and a new name. Joseph left prison with wisdom that would save nations. Elijah left the wilderness with fresh purpose. Paul left blindness as the loudest voice of the early church. Each one carried the marks of what they'd survived, none of them diminished by it. Romans 8:28 doesn't say some things work together for good. It says all things. Emergence doesn't mean the hard part is over. It means you finally see that none of it was wasted. So wherever you are right now, in the disruption, the silence, the stripping, the test, the confrontation, or the surrender, you're not being punished. You're standing exactly where every person Scripture calls significant once stood. Not around it, through it. Spiritual awakening isn't the moment life gets easy. It's the moment life gets real. The fire doesn't consume what it's meant to refine. And this season won't consume you either. You're not broken clay. You're clay in the hands of someone who has never once shaped something without a purpose. If this video helped you, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Someone who's been waking up defeated. Someone who's been fighting battles in their own strength. This could be the reset they've been praying for. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to True Faith for more scripture-based content that actually strengthens your faith without the fluff. We're building a community of believers who don't just consume content, but apply the word and see real change.